Pop stars, welcome to this week's episode of the Popcorn Wind Down. I'm Eddie.
And I'm Tammy.
Thank you for joining us. This episode is sponsored by Revival Services Inc. We bring things and sometimes maybe even possibly people back. Check us out at revive.web. Hey, that's all they sent. That's all I asked. The check cleared and I let it go.
Exactly. That's all we worried about.
That's all. Sometimes you don't want to know the answer, so I let it roll. Um, Speaking of revivals, this week we dive into the revival movie of one of our favorite series, Teen Wolf. The movie picks up about 15 years later with Scott and the gang, minus Stiles, reviving, haha, see what I did there, the very dead Allison, Scott's first girlfriend, and I guess supposedly the love of his life. So, Tammy, what did you think of Teen Wolf the movie? Did it leave you howling at the moon, begging for more, or hoping they would put the dog out of its misery?
um, you know, sometimes revivals really aren't needed. And I think this was one of them.
Yeah, it was. I think it was the revival that we thought we wanted, but it wasn't the one we needed.
How it
I
turned
know.
out wasn't what we needed.
Yeah.
The idea,
uh,
the concept was what we wanted, but what we got, yeah, they could have left that in the pound.
Yeah. Look, so this is the new phrase. Tell us it's a Dylan O'Brien without telling us it's a Dylan O'Brien. He tried to told us, okay? I ain't even mad at Styles for not doing this.
Definitely not mad at Styles. Like, you know what? You all right with me, Dylan. You all right.
I know at first you was kind of a little thinking, oh, nah, he tried to told us. He tried to told us look, he told us without telling us.
Yes.
Um that and he cleaned it up and he made it very, very reasonable and realistic, but he's like, nah, I can't do this. I can't put my name, image, and likeness behind this. Like, nah. And after seeing it, I'm not even mad at him. I can't be. I'm not even mad at Arden Cho for sitting out for her money grievances because you would have had to pay me some hella bucks to do this too. So um, yeah. So like I said, it was. I'm not mad at Dylan O'Brien. I'm kind of mad at Tyler Hecklin. I mean, I
Yo,
understand coming back.
you too, right?
I understand coming back and giving and paying homage to where you started, but you see what they did to the character, so they wouldn't have to ask him back again.
Oh my goodness. I would
But
hope they ain't bringing this back again.
yeah, it was, and it wasn't even a case of bad acting because it's not like Teen Wolf was ever one of those Emmy award-winning series that you just watched for this stellar acting. Um, but it was always been more of a guilty pleasure, and I was just like, yeah,
I feel like
yeah.
acting got worse though. I'm sorry. Like I feel the so my mindset is yes, it was never an Emmy award winning show. Okay. It wasn't. I get that. But there are a lot of shows that we truly enjoy that have great acting that are not Emmy award winning shows, right?
Hmm.
Um, and with this one, I guess when we were younger, we forgave the fact of they weren't the best actors in the business. Except for like maybe three of them who could really do it. But the ones who came back, yeah, weakest links. Weakest links. Like I feel like, yeah, I really feel like Tyler, you should have sat this out. Like you should have had a conversation with your boy, Brian, and you should have been like, you know what? I'm gonna do the same as you. I'm gonna sit this out. Because it just yeah.
How like and I was trying to write this, and I love the industry, and as a future writer myself, I applaud anyone who gets their movies, their scripts, and from that whole standpoint, yes. But sometimes maybe I'm with you. It did too much, but not enough, all at the same time. For it to be 2.5 hours long, just about, it felt really rushed, and it felt like they were just throwing a bunch of stuff at the wall to see what sticks. I understand the premise of trying to bring Allison back. The way, because it's a supernatural show, the way that they explained how she had been stuck more or less in limbo, it made sense. You know, that whole thing made sense. But everything else surrounding it really didn't make sense. Like you have this random history teacher that was killed in an episode or over a string of episodes in what season 3 that we're supposed to remember, like that, you know. So I think you could have told her story. The Nugitse, it was a bit that I remember he was a big bad for the second half of the series,
Mm-hmm.
especially as we were dealing with Arden Cho's character and the foxes, the fire foxes, and all of that. So I understand having him come back. You know, it's just so many plot holes, and they could have done a better job of connecting it. So, like you said, when we were younger, we overlooked the lack of acting skills based on the plot and the stories because the stories were interesting. You know,
And the
um,
chemistry. I think
and
the
the chemistry,
chemistry really sold it too.
yeah. And so we overlooked a lot of the lacking for what you had, and I think you, you I think it was lazy. Like, okay, we get the revival, but it 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 didn't feed on that chemistry. It didn't feed on great storytelling. So it's like a lot of the stuff that we overlooked before was very hard to overlook now.
Yeah, we're older, and I think that being older is just more prominent, right? Because it's not you're not gearing this towards teenagers. You're gearing this towards the fans that grew with this. And yeah, it was just I agree with you. I think they threw a lot of stuff at the walls. I think it was more just bringing back whoever was willing to come back, and not necessarily making full sense of why certain people needed to be back. Like even something as simple as the Mason character, the black man, the Mason character, and Dylan Sprayberry. I forgot what his character name was. They were best friends when they were in high school, weren't they?
Hmm.
They didn't share no type of connection whatsoever in this movie, and they
Mm-mm.
were the best of friends in high school. So are you telling me that over the 15 years they can't even say, yo, what's up, how's life doing for you? Like, did they have a falling out and nobody addressed it? Like, what is up? Like, it was just never brought about. Like, it was just never talked about. Or the fact of that, like Mason, and these are simple details, I get it, like they're not like the main characters, but these were some of the things that could have easily been rectified and was not. And like Mason and the other cop, they were in a relationship in high school. Now they're working together. At least from what I remember, I believe that was the boy. That was the boy that he was in a relationship with in high school. And yet there was like nothing there. He dies, and it was like no reaction. And I was just like, yo, this is just weird. It was just like you just bringing people back just to bring them back with
Yeah, and
such false relationships attached to it, you know?
yeah, and I'm with you because those were questions, like those were things that I was asking myself, like, okay, Mason and, yeah, like you said, I can't remember his name. Dylan Sprayberry's character were the best of friends. All they all, with the exception of Scott and Lydia, they all still live in that town in Beacon Hills. So, and now you're working with your. It alluded to very briefly that Mason and Oh Boy were still in a relationship, that they were still together. But like you said, when he dies, there's no reaction, no nothing, and it's just like, okay. Um, you know, the Jeep, you get the Jeep, but it takes them like way too long for you to fucking figure out that that's Styles' Jeep. At first, it's just like, okay, because it looks so different, like it's been completely rebuilt,
Mm-hmm.
and it's like, well, what, okay, he keeps taking this Jeep. And at one point I'm like, oh, okay, is that the old Jeep? But so it's like a lot of the threads that you were trying to connect, they did it poorly, or it took them too long to connect them. Like I said, Allison's character, I was honestly never the biggest Allison fan,
Me
but
either.
But here's the thing, and I get she's been in limbo for this 15 years, so her memory is going to be messed up. I understand her not having, with her coming back, with not having her full memory. But here's the thing, the character that she connected to the most was the vision of her mother, who was the one character in life that she couldn't stand.
Yeah,
Like her and her, even when she was a
it
part
was.
of the
She was a
show,
daddy's girl through and through.
she was a daddy's girl through and through. Her and her mother never had a good relationship, never. So it was just like, okay, so now you all of a sudden you're connecting to your mother rather than your father, you know. Um, so it was just a lot of plot holes and a lot of stuff that I want to attribute to lazy writing and like you having all these people come back. A lot of our favorites, with the exception of Dylan O'Brien, which we totally understand. Um, it was just like you were playing on that nostalgia, and it's been too long to play on that nostalgia. It's been too long to try to just use that to prop up a movie, um, especially something that was supposed to be, that was so hyped up, and like I said, it turned out to me to be anticlimactic. Although I did, there were some things I did like. Was there anything in there that you thought was positive or anything you liked?
Although I felt they didn't fully like hit that connection that I needed to see. I did like the concept of Derek being the only one who was a family man and raising his son on his own. Though, do you know who his mama was?
No, it wasn't Kate. She died too soon. I don't know. Probably just some. Derek was like a cat. He had 9 lives, because I could swear Derek was killed off like every season.
Yeah. Oh, when they showed the flashback, I'm agreeing with you on that. But I did like the connection of Derek and his son Eli, because I also like the fact of like Stiles' dad kind of being the standing grandfather
Yes.
of it all. I thought that was really great. And I also thought, because in a way, like Eli was like the new Styles. Like he was what Styles was when he was younger, very mischievous, never listening. He also would steal his Jeep and everything like that. So I love that dynamic of like Derek and Stilinski having that connection where Derek was the new like Stilinski of when he was raising Styles, and Eli was the new Styles. So I did love that dynamic. I don't think they meshed it as well as they could have on um, because Eli, even though you knew that the ones who stayed in Beacon Hills knew Eli and had built that relationship, they didn't play on that. They didn't play, like that was another plot hole on. They didn't truly play on the fact that everybody knew who Eli was. And then to think Scott didn't know Eli, yeah, but I did like that one. I like that one. I love Lydia. I think she was one of my favorite characters throughout the seasons. So I was very happy. Jackson, hilarious. I really, really like Jackson. I thought he was funny because he has no connection to anybody but Lydia. But he was just going everywhere, and I was just like, okay, you're kind of like the comic relief, a little bit of the comic relief, although you definitely do not fit into this pack whatsoever. And as always, Peter. Gosh darn it. That's a sexy ass man right there. When he like, so one of my favorite scenes is when he was on the ground, right? And he's smelling for where they went. And he gets up and he runs his hands through his hair when he gets up, like he was modeling or something. And I was just like, it just made me sigh because he's really, really good looking. So I was like, those Hale boys, they got some looks. They got some looks. But
Yeah.
but yeah, so like other than that, I'm gonna be honest. I think there were some good points, but then there were some points that I was just like, why? Why? I think Scott was one of the weakest points of the whole entire movie. And I've never been a fan of Allison either. So Allison, like, coming back, and then, you know what? I'm gonna stay off the physical. I'm gonna stay off the physical. I'm not gonna talk about it. I'm just gonna talk about the acting and the storyline and everything. But yeah, it just, Scott and Allison's story didn't sell for me.
Yeah. Um. It, the aging is not very good. Um. So I understand what you're going to say, and we'll leave it at that. I'm not going to be cruel or mean or anything like that, but I think we're on the same page with that.
Okay.
Um. But I'm with you. The highlight to me was the whole Eli and Derek and Scott. I mean Eli and Derek. I loved their story. I loved Eli, and that's what I said in my notes. I actually wrote down that he's a cross between Stiles and Scott, and only Scott because of the fact that he's a wolf, but he's more Stiles. But I really felt like he should have had more to do. I think it would have been stronger, especially since it was one of the main plot lines was about him connecting with his wolf. Um, and I think so. At first, again, this is another place where I think they dropped the ball. You're led to believe that he doesn't, he is a wolf, but he hasn't changed because he can't change. You don't know the trauma behind it, that he has PTSD basically from when he was a kid and he saw Derek change to protect him. It took too long to get that out
To the
because at
very
first
end. It went to the very end.
we went to the very end, because at first you're thinking, why can't this kid change? you know so it was just like, okay. But I was just like, it would have maybe, and since he was the one who knew who the tree was, randomly he just comes up for the tree. He should have been the one to possibly discover Allison and that she was alive. I think there are just ways that they could have made it more compelling and given this kid, who obviously is the future of the Teen Wolf franchise, I'm assuming, if it continues. And I want to say, I think before they came up with the idea of the revival movie, there was supposed to be a series, and I think that this was supposed to be kind of like, and I could see that. I would watch a series with him as the star, but I don't necessarily need Scott and everyone else in it. Um, but I thought Eli was really cool. I liked him. He was funny, and he's a cutie. He's a little cutie. Um, like you said, the Hells, they have good genes. I loved Peter. You're right. He came back and he did what he was out, even though he was a bad guy, or he was an anti-hero. He always did what he was supposed to do. He brought in that bit of assholery slash comic relief,
Mm-hmm.
and he still has it. So that was much appreciated. And Jackson, loved seeing him back, and he was just all in his full on glory. Jackson, living his best life. Made no qualms about that. He was only there for Lydia because he'd always kind of been like the outsider. Um, and but one of my favorite scenes with Jackson is when he told someone, "Bitch, I will burn you." What was it? What is it that he can do that the others can't? And he was like, "If you don't," he's like, "If you don't get that out of my face, I will pull out."
Oh,
Oh, he has
because
the
he could
poisonous
poison, because he
claws.
has poison in his body.
Yeah, he said. He said, "Bitch, I have the poison claws. If you do not get that out of my face, I will drag out these claws and poison you." I'm like, "Oh shit."
I said, go
So
ahead, Jackson.
I love Jackson. And but yeah, it was not, it was just, and I'm trying to think of the
Yeah.
I'm trying to think of the positives about this. Like,
I mean, we talked about the positives. So one of the positives was, I did enjoy the Derek aspects of it. Eli, Derek, Peter coming back and being exactly who Peter always was. Like you said, like Peter was a villain, but at the same time, when you needed Peter gonna do exactly what you need him to do. Okay, especially if it benefits him. And so yeah, like it's just, but overall I think the general concept of bringing Allison back, that fell flat for me. That's the part that fell flat for me. But when it comes to that side story of Derek and them, like Derek and his family and them trying to protect Eli, like I was all for that. Another thing was explaining Stiles away. And I think they did a good job on just kind of throwing in the reasoning for why Styles wasn't there, why Lydia left him. And I thought it was plausible. Like, in my opinion, I thought it was plausible. Like, I could truly believe. Now, I don't think he would have stayed away as long as he did in, if Dylan O'Brien was, available. But I do believe in the whole, she kept having the same dream and decided to leave him before it became a reality. Like, I felt that was very, very plausible story.
Yeah, and they could have, and if he had been available, they could have still been broken up. But we know that Styles, especially given everything that was going on, that he would have been there for his friends, for his people. Um, and so I agree with you. That was one good thing that they did in explaining it away. Um, and like I said, the Allison would have been a great subplot and a good secondary arc to Eli's story,
Yeah,
of
not the
him,
main one.
yeah, of him fighting the wolf, and then the Nagutse coming back, because when they went to the tree stump, I'm like, okay, shouldn't they have gone to the tree stump before she got out, and then that would have made it seem like she was under more control of the Nagutse, because it's like you recognize, you've always been a daddy's girl, so you would recognize your father, and then have that play. I think it would have been stronger if the Nugentse was playing with her so like I said, there are just different ways that they could have made it better and more compelling, and more of the team wolf, especially for it to have been as long as it was, to have ran as long as it did. 2.5 hours, or about 2 hours and 20 minutes, is a long time to be a whole bunch of nothing. And the most interesting part was probably what, the last 15 minutes.
Yeah.
Like I was fully engaged every time Derek and Eli were on the screen. I love, like, I'm with you. I love those things. I love that story. But everything else, I was just like, alrighty then,
I would
sure,
even say
okay.
the parents were even more entertaining than the Allison story.
Yeah, and it's like, okay, so why was her dad even there for just, oh, yeah, it was just a lot. I mean, it it, it was too much, but not enough. And that's the only way I can think to describe this. All right, so and I think that well has run dry. So what now? I do have a question. I do
Of
have
course.
one question. Now I did say, if they were to make a series with Eli as the focus, would you watch?
No. I think that Teen Wolf has run its course. It's like, at the end of the day, you made this movie for nostalgia more than anything. But if this is what you're offering up, I have no faith that they can actually gain the momentum that they had the first run around with Teen Wolf. So I wouldn't even want you to try. Like, I wouldn't even want you to bring this up, because that would just mean you destroying it more and more. A beloved series that we have and we look at with fondness. If you were to try to revitalize it, I think that this is one and done and no more.
Yeah, if you could recapture some of that magic and actually put forth the effort and energy to make it what it's supposed to be, I think a series with Eli would be very compelling. But if it's going to be based on what we've seen on the movie, then no, I'm with you. Leave it alone. Because, like I said, he has a great story to tell. And if it's just about you wanting to make sure Tyler Posey has a job besides OnlyFans, then yeah, he's technically at this point Eli's guardian. But
And
so
I'm sorry. And another thing is, why is Scott his guardian?
Because he's the alpha.
Now, I get that, but
And
like,
it goes back to that whole point in the beginning about him wanting to have a kid, but one day finding the right person. So I guess him and Allison and and they were all part
y'all
of
can have your
Scott's
own
cast.
kid. Because I feel like Stilinski should have been the one to get custody of Eli.
Yeah, I would agree, and I would agree, and I
He's his
think.
grandfather. Like, that's literally like, okay.
But anyway, okay.
Anyway,
So what are you rating this?
all right. I ain't gonna
Sorry,
do Mulan on it. I'm not
I
gonna
was gonna
Mulan
say,
it.
is it Mulan? Are you Mulaning it?
I'm not gonna Mulan it, but I'm gonna get close.
Okay.
Okay, I'm gonna get close. So I'm gonna give Teen Wolf the movie 2 popcorns. Like, yeah, 2 popcorns. Like, I told them, don't even fill it up to the top because it's gonna be a waste of food. It's just gonna be a waste of food. Like, I'm gonna fall asleep. Like, I
Damn,
feel like that's.
you didn't even spill any. You made the decision for them not to fill it up.
Yeah.
Shit.
I said, I'll fill up the bucket. Like, it's cool. It's cool. It's all right. It's all right. Because I ain't gonna eat it all because I'm gonna fall asleep. But yeah, 2 popcorns is what I am going to give Teen Wolf the movie. So much promise and yet fell flat in the end. What about you, Eddie?
It was one of those where I started with a number and I'm like, oh, that seems kind of low. Maybe I will go up as we, because sometimes it's happened. It's been known to happen. You start thinking about it and it makes you think about other things. And this one is one that I did not go up. I actually wanted to go down, but I'm not. I'm gonna stay where I'm at. And I'm gonna give it just barely more than you did. 2.25 popcorns. And that is most of it is for nostalgia's sake.
Yeah.
Most of it is because of how
Because it would
much
have been worse than Mulan, I'm telling you right now.
yeah, if I had not, if I, and that's the sad part. If people who had never watched the series just jumped in on this movie, they would be like, "What the hell did you watch for five? Was it on 5 seasons or seven? I don't
Oh,
know."
God, I forgot. I even forgot.
But they would be like, "What the hell were you watching this whole time?" Because the movie does not do any justice
None.
to the series at all.
It's
So
not
most of
gaining new fans.
yeah, it was nostalgia's sake. And the things that I did like, I could appreciate. But yeah, so 2.25 popcorns, and it's something I don't ever have to watch again. Even though it is streaming free on Paramount Plus, it's like, no, I'm good. Am I that bored? No, I'm not. So, I like I said, Dylan O'Brien, Arden Show, I understand. I think you even convinced Tammy, who wasn't so sympathetic or understanding at first, but now I think she gets it.
Oh, for Dylan. Arden Cho, I could care less whether she was in there or not. But Dylan, I understand why he didn't do it.
Um, so yeah, this was and I always said I'm with Arden Cho. Yeah, you would have had to run me some money to do this. So all right. Well, that does it for this week's episode of the Popcorn Wind Down. Please be sure to listen, like, follow, comment anywhere you listen to your podcast. You can also keep up to date on the latest in entertainment pop culture news, as well as other amazing kernels of pop culture goodness at thepopcornwinddown.com. That's it. That's the plug. Pop, pop, pop. Thank you as always, and be sure to join us next week when we review the highly anticipated You People currently streaming on Netflix. I'm interested to see what you have to say about this,
Me
about You People.
too.
Have you watched it yet?
I got through half of it.
Okay, all right. So, oh, okay, cool. Well, if you want to know how we feel about You People, then please, You People, I see what I did there. Be sure to
Mhm.
tune in next week. And until then, I'm Eddie.
And I'm Tammy. Bye.
Peace.